Okay, well, we will go ahead and get started, and I hope my remote kicks in, but if not, I'll just manually go through this. So tonight we're going to discuss preparing your digital afterlife. So as you know, we live a lot of our lives online now. You're probably on your computer, on your iPad, on your iPhone several times a day, going to different websites, visiting different things, signing in, checking bank statements, checking investments, and it's a lot of places you go, and there's a lot of stuff involved with that. So a little bit about myself. I'm Jeff Bohr. I own a company called Naples Mac Help. I'm an Apple certified support professional, so I've been using Apple computers now for 32 years. I've never owned a PC, and I started my business in 2014. So like taxes, death is eventually inevitable. You've probably created a will, and many of you have even made funeral arrangements in advance. But is there a family member or attorney that knows where your passwords are located? How many online accounts do you have that may need to be closed or signed out of to stop recurring billing charges? So there are four major components to your digital life. You have all your passwords, you have your online bank accounts and financial life, that data. You have an email address and maybe multiple, and social media accounts if you use that. And then you also have digital assets like photos and music and movies that you may have purchased through an online source.
Can I, you probably don't need to take notes because we're going to send you this PDF.
Yeah, this PDF will go out in the group email this evening. So each one of these components requires a different strategy to ensure that nothing gets lost or forgotten. So devices and passwords. You've probably created a will, and many of you have even made funeral arrangements in advance, but are your iPads, iPhones, and computers listed in your will? Who do you want to have these after you are gone? Do you have a plan for saving or deleting the data on all your devices? So if we go on to devices and passwords, something to consider. If you were hit by a theoretical train tomorrow, would someone be able to log in and pay your bills and attend to other online matters? If the answer is yes, you can leave. Thank you for coming. You're well prepared.
Doesn't look like anybody's leaving.
If the answer is no, then you need a plan. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of who to call, who to contact, but I'm going to give you an overview so that you can be more prepared for getting this information ready in case a train hits you tomorrow. And luckily we're in Naples and there aren't any train tracks that I know of. So if you don't use a password management system such as 1Password, it's never too late to start. An address book stuffed with scraps of paper and post-it notes will not help a loved one during what will already be a stressful time. So let's try to make it easier on them. So often I go to a lot of houses and businesses and I'll be setting up something and we'll be trying to sort something out and I'll say, oh, do you have the password for this? And they'll reach in a drawer and they'll go through all these pieces of paper and then they pull out an envelope and open it up and there's 5 post-it notes in there and voila, there's the password. Well, if it took them that long to find that and it's their own desk, how long would it take someone else to find it if they went on vacation or something? So having this stuff accessible is really important. So 1Password is a program that I've been using for probably over 10 years now, and it's available for all platforms, including computers and iOS devices, Androids, PCs, and what it does is it helps manage and create strong passwords, as well as provide an emergency kit that you can give to someone for after you're gone, and this will allow them access to your passwords. So I'm going to show you what the 1Password emergency kit looks like, and if you ever create a 1Password account, to use their software, they'll give you a link to download this. And this comes in a PDF, and they tell you that you might want to print it, put it in a safe deposit box, or put it somewhere safe, because this is the key to accessing all your passwords.
Jeff, before you go past this point, what if you have 1Password that you don't have an account for? Will it still be available?
If you don't have an account for 1Password, you can still create an emergency kit for your own computer. So the ways you can use 1Password are, if you want to use it on multiple devices, you can create an account, which is another subscription plan, like everything else is becoming now, And for $3 or $4 a month, all your devices will sync. And then that's when, if something happened to you and your son was in New York City and he needed to access your accounts immediately and he couldn't get to Naples to get on your computer, well, in that case, he could use this emergency kit to log in from his computer, because the key to this emergency kit being so secure is this long secret key here that the top arrow points to, as well as this barcode. So you can scan that with another device, a computer or a smartphone or an iPad. So you'll need all of this information, the sign-in address, the email address, the secret key, as well as your master password that you create when you set up a 1Password account. So it's pretty bulletproof as far as being hacked, but also if you don't have any of this information, you're locked out forever. So, but this emergency kit allows you to track this information so that in case of an emergency, someone could access the information you have stored in a program like 1Password. So again, if you get hit by a train, who gets your phone? Who gets your iPad? Who gets your MacBook? Where does your iMac go? And more importantly, who is going to erase these devices or get them ready? Because you may or may not want everything to go to one of your children's or a brother or sister before it's kind of cleaned up a little. So you have to think about not only where it's going, but what state it will be in when it gets to them. So make sure that if you have a tech support person you rely on, or a neighbor, or someone that helps you with kind of your tech stuff, make sure the family also knows how to contact that person if there's any question about the devices that person might have helped you with. So even if you're not the most tech-savvy person, but your next-door neighbor comes over and helps you set up accounts and such, let your family know that, hey, Bill, my next-door neighbor, helps me with this stuff, just so that they would know who to go to in case they didn't know something. Bill might know it, or the neighbor. So as important as making plans for your data, it's important to know that someone that knows you, to be able to contact them in case it's necessary. Online financial accounts. Everybody has multiple bank accounts that they probably log into daily or sometimes a day. And again, 1Password can help. So it can keep track of logins and security questions, credit card numbers, and phone numbers for your institutions. So if you do decide not to use a password manager, make sure you have clear and concise typed or printed notes for someone to follow if needed. If you keep it in a handwritten notebook and your writing isn't that good, it's not going to help anyone. So if you can type this out or print it in some way that it's kind of a tidy format, if you're not going to use a password manager, it'll be a lot easier for someone to manage if they need to.
And where do you keep that?
You would keep it in a secure place at home. I mean, the problem, it's not the problem with passwords. It's very hard for someone to steal your money by getting a password, because the banks have made it almost impossible to transfer money between institutions. So as long as you keep this somewhere safe that you know and someone else knows the location of, if someone steals your password list because you left it on your desk, they're not going to be able to do much damage, but they can cause a lot of headaches. Because if they get your passwords, you might have to get a new debit card number, you might have to change some account numbers, you have to call your bank, you have to go in and sign some papers. So it's not like they're going to steal any money, but they can steal a lot of time and some of your sanity if your passwords get hacked. So that's another important thing about using something like 1Password. It's very almost impossible to get hacked because of all that security information they require, and the secret code and the barcode. So really no one but you cares about your passwords, but you should take care of your own passwords. Because if I found your passwords, I couldn't do anything with it. I could try to do some things and I would get logged out. I wouldn't know a secret question or something, your dog's name, whatever they ask. And then you have to go in and change your password. And you might have to change a lot of passwords, especially if you've used the same password for a lot of things. And Amazon gets hacked, well then the people that hacked Amazon have your password for Delta Airlines as well. So that's the importance of not using the same password on multiple sites, and 1Password can help you with that as well. And I'm not getting any kickback from 1Password, I just believe in the program, and it works.
Jeff, on the emergency kit,
if you lose your password, can you still use that emergency kit in order to get into your?
All components must be present to get in. So if you forget or lose your master password, the rest of the information is useless. One password is so secure that there's no back door if you forget your master password. If you forget your master password, your option is to start from scratch. They can't help you, they won't help you, the data is locked. There's nothing they can do to get into it. But in reality, if you're using the software, your master password is going to be something you can remember. So if you're using it, you're not going to forget it, that component of it. But the emergency kit is another place you can record it. I mean, the one client I had that forgot her master password, she had installed the program and not used it in 2 years. You know, she had maybe put one thing in it, and so she didn't lose anything. So if you get to the point where you forget your master password, it's probably going to be easy for you to start over because you did not probably use it that much to get comfortable with the one password you created to lock this. Now, when you talk about email and social media, there are many different kinds of email providers. And you may not only have one email address. You may have multiple social media accounts. So if you're like most people, you don't have only one email address. So make sure that in your notes or your password manager all have the login information so that someone can get your email when needed. And if you think about these emergency type situations where someone might have to access stuff quickly to take care of impending bills or other obligations that might be present, they might not be doing that from one of your devices. So that's why it's important that they can get this information, because if they are in Chicago or if they're in Los Angeles and they have to check your email for some notice that's going to be coming through from the bank or whatever, they can get into it from anywhere. And most of the email services will allow you to log in from anywhere in the world now. So having this information ready for an emergency like that is imperative. Yes, Don?
Like Jerry, okay, if you have, I don't use one password, how many times a day do you have to put your login? They say you need a real secure password for that, which I understand. How many times a day do you have to use it?
Technically, on your device, if you're accessing it on a phone or an iPad, you have to put in the password every time you exit the program for security. Now the devices, if you have Face ID or Touch ID set up, you can use that to open up the device. Are you on a Mac?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on a Mac, you have to enter the password. You can, in the preferences of 1Password, you can adjust the interval in which it's going to log you out and ask for a password. I think the default is 5 minutes, but I have mine set for 90 minutes or 120 minutes. So you can set that for longer if you're comfortable with it, and if there aren't, teenagers running around your house or something. So you can set the interval to, 400 minutes.
If you want, like Schwab only allows you to be logged in for 1 hour, so it times out, and then you want to log in, an hour and a half later. You mean you got to put in your 1Password thing?
If you had set the interval, or left it at 5 minutes, but if you set the interval for asking you for your 1Password to 90 minutes, then if you got logged out of Schwab, you can just click on the 1Password icon in the menu bar, and it would fill in that password again within 90 minutes of your last using of 1Password.
Thank you. My other question is, if you have, like Jerry has it, or like the password you showed up there, if it puts in a very long password with symbols and numbers and capital letters and all that, how does your person who's looking after your stuff afterwards, you mean it prints that out? Or he has to use it from your computer to log on to your...
You probably have to print it out, but ideally, 1Password is best used online, with the subscription. And for, less than, probably I think it's $60 a year or less.
Right. But you said that the person might want to log in from his own computer to your account. So how is he going to...
So with that emergency kit, they can log in from Los Angeles. If they know your master password, they know that secret key that's 30 digits long, and they know your email address, then they could log into the account, if it was a subscription account from Los Angeles, copy and paste the password. Otherwise, if you're using a standalone version of 1Password, If they can't access your computer to copy and paste, they'd have to type in that
Whole thing.
password by hand,
Right.
which is tedious.
Yeah,
I mean, my Apple password is 27 digits, and it's a combination
right.
of all kinds of things. And but I can copy and paste it almost anywhere, on my Apple TV, on my iPad, on my iPhone. So, and all I have to know to be able to copy and paste it is my one password. And your one password doesn't have to be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, because it's something you're going to be typing over and over. More so, make it something hard to guess. They require at least 10 characters, and that's the only really requirement. So if you make it, like I said, if somebody steals your Mac or they steal your iPad, they don't care about your passwords. They're thinking, how can I reset this and use it? So again, your passwords are only important to you, but take care of them. But that one password doesn't have to be anything too crazy that you can't remember and don't mind typing over and over.
Thank you.
I don't want to make this a one-password meeting, but I can click on my Amazon one-password at Bingo, go there. But if I click on Noteboom, it comes up with my entry and nothing further. So I have to go then to one-password, look at it, type it in, and go. Is
I
there
would
a
probably,
reason for that?
do you know the Noteboom password? I mean, you
Yeah.
have it recorded? So I would delete the entry and refill it. It could be that if a website changes, the link that one password keeps could go out of date, kind of. And
So
that's
just
what's,
erase it from one-password.
just delete the whole entry and then let it record it again, and that should reset the link.
Thank you.
Bill, it should work as easy as Amazon. At your Amazon, and it should be automatic.
Okay, well, I've got a copy.
And Amazon keeps everyone's password all the time, so that's not even a good one to use an example for one password, because Amazon keeps it just so it's easy for you to order. But most passwords should just
Okay.
be easy. So if you delete it and let it re-record it, it should sync back up. So just remember, if they don't have this information, then they're going to be locked out of your email account. Now, different social media services have different policies for closing an account after death. And I'm going to cover a few of the most popular sites and how they manage this situation. But one of the things that's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you, is, does anybody use Facebook in the group? So everybody's familiar with Facebook, probably. Well, what'll happen is, you might see something on Facebook and you'll get these little notices, hey, it's so-and-so's birthday. And then you see a notice, hey, it's Joe Smith's birthday. And you think, wait, Joe Smith has been dead for 5 years. Why are they telling me this? Well, it's because no one in Joe's family did anything with his account. And it's just like Joe's just out there floating in cyberspace even though he's been gone. So that's why it's kind of important to tidy up these loose ends or have a plan for doing it, simply because otherwise people will still be sending Joe messages and they're just kind of going into cyberspace. And I don't know if that's sad or what, but it's just kind of an unusual thing that we have to deal with that wasn't possible a generation ago even. So Facebook can turn your account into what's called a memorialized account after you pass away. And you can set up what's called a legacy contact through the security settings on your Facebook page. So the legacy contact can also share a final message on your behalf or provide information about some kind of memorial service. And you can also grant that person permission to download your Facebook posts and photos. This legacy contact can't delete your account or log into your account. So that's something you can set up in advance. Like I set up, my wife is a legacy contact for me. So if something happens to me, and I don't know how Facebook really finds out that I was hit by a train, but if they did, if my wife could continue to post things and download my pictures that I had on Facebook, but she couldn't delete my account or log in unless she had my Facebook login information. So that's why it would be important, even though the legacy contact is a pretty good, surrogate way to kind of manage the end on Facebook. It still doesn't, if they have the Facebook login, they can delete the account. So my wife also has my Facebook username and password, so she can just go in and delete the account if anything happens to me. So Twitter has a form that can be used to request deactivation of an account, but no account access to the account is granted. So again, if someone has the Twitter username and password, they could just go in and delete the account. These descriptions are kind of assuming that you don't know the information to get into their administrative settings, so you don't know their Twitter password. So the most you can do is request deactivation. LinkedIn has one of the most lenient policies. If someone sends a link to an obituary, that's it. And you can fill out an online form. So if I wanted to say George Ribbon had passed on, I could just make up an obituary, send it in, and everybody on LinkedIn would get a notice that George had passed. So that LinkedIn doesn't have very much security, and anybody can say anybody was gone, really. So that's kind of a weak one.
By the way, they're owned by Microsoft.
They are now, yes. And Yahoo will not provide passwords or allow access to the deceased accounts, including account content such as email, but they will delete the account after receiving documents, including a letter and a death certificate. And Yahoo also owns Flickr, a photo sharing service. So again, if you had the Yahoo information for the person that you were trying to manage this stuff for, this wouldn't be necessary. But if someone didn't leave you their Yahoo information and you were in charge of settling their affairs, you'd have to send them a letter and death certificate. And in the PDF that you'll get, these links are clickable for the forms and paperwork I'm talking about. If you need to submit that, these links will take you to the places where you can do that.
Yahoo also owns AOL now.
Right. And Yahoo owns, like if you have an SBC Global email, that's really Yahoo. So there's a lot of these services have little subsidiaries, and they're really part of a bigger service. So Google, which also owns YouTube, has an inactive account feature, which you can specify a timeout period which starts after you've not logged in for a certain time period. So at that point, Google will try to contact you by text and email, and if they can't get a hold of you, they'll notify trusted contacts you set up in advance with a letter that you've written in advance regarding the Google account. Those people, if you've set them up in advance, can have full access to delete the account. So like I've set something up with Google that says, if I don't log in for 60 days, then start this process. And I've never I'm on Google all the time, and I stay signed in for some services. So if you can set this up for Google with the time frame that you're comfortable with, and then they'll try to contact you, and they'll send you an email, hey, you haven't logged in, or are you okay? Something like that. But if you aren't, after a few days, they'll contact your people that you set up in advance and say, hey, what happened to Jeff? Do you know anything? And they'll start the proceedings. Yes?
Where do I find that information on Google?
On Google, if you, I'll put a link in here.
Okay.
When I put this live, there will be a link. There's one page on Google where it's in your security settings for your account, where you can set up this timeout period, they call it. Now, Pinterest, I don't think they really store any data, but there's no options for a third party deactivating someone's Pinterest account. You have to log into the Pinterest account, and then you'll see the option at the bottom of the settings page. But to do that, someone would have to have your Pinterest login. Netflix, again, you have to be able to sign in with the username and password of the account holder, and then you can cancel the streaming services. Now again, this is another reason why email access is important, simply because if someone doesn't know your Netflix password, but they had access to your email, they could reset the password, and then the email would come to you, which they could monitor in order to process a closing of a Netflix account. So the email is really key to a lot of this, simply because a lot of these password resets are sent through email. So if you've given the person the information to get into your email account, they can then assist with closing some of these other accounts, especially Netflix, which might be 10 or $15 a month. It's going to go to a credit card. So
Well, I was gonna bring that up. All of these accounts you're paying for on a monthly basis, iCloud or Netflix.
yeah, subscriptions.
Right, and I guess if somebody could cancel that charge plate that you use for all of these. they would automatically get turned off at some point, but they can't get paid.
Yeah, that's another way to do it. I mean, yeah, because if the account that they're debiting is inactive, they would probably eventually cut it off.
Right.
But if you were paying Google for cloud storage, that probably wouldn't mean they delete your data, which you'd still have to do kind of manually. So Apple, until I started researching this topic, Apple has really the most stringent policy of any of the ones that I discovered. They basically say that you agree that your account is non-transferable and that any rights to your Apple ID or content within your account terminate upon your death. Upon receipt of a copy of a death certificate, your account may be terminated and all content within your account deleted. All content includes all the music you've bought, all the movies you've bought from Apple. So if you've bought a lot of movies and you don't have copies of them on your computer or an external hard drive, same for music. Technically, if Apple finds out that you're gone, they could just zap all the data.
What about your pictures?
Well, pictures are technically yours. So if they're tied into your iCloud account. Now, your pictures, usually the only copy isn't on the cloud because your computer will usually keep a copy of your photos even if you're storing them in the cloud. So pictures are your content, which you're entitled to. But even purchased movies and music technically revert to Apple when you're gone. Now, I don't know of any cases where I've heard of this really happening, where somebody wakes up and all their dad's music is gone or something, but technically it could, just because they put these terms in their fine print that we all agree to when we download iTunes. So just be aware that I don't think Apple's, checking the obituaries to see whose music they can pull away, but still, that's their official policy. So if you can, make sure that someone has your Apple ID and password so they could download those movies and music if they wanted to, if you're not here one day.
Yeah, they'll probably want them within 5 minutes.
Yeah, so just, I don't know how, I've never heard of it being enforced, but technically it's a possibility. So just be wary of that if you have a lot of content. Yes?
I'm focusing on the word may be terminated. That is a legal term, that doesn't even say for sure that they will.
Right. But I guess if you woke up and all your sister's content was gone, you wouldn't have much recourse.
No.
Because of this.
It's gone.
So how would you save your music? You would have to export it into a folder?
No, if you have it on your computer, and you have enough space to where if you have, years and years of music and you have 30, 40,000 songs, then they'll probably be on your hard drive.
Right, so they don't recapture, they just recapture the stuff that's in the cloud.
Kind of in the cloud. Like if you're using Apple Music and you just downloaded, Lady Gaga's recent album on your iPad or something, that's technically not your music anyway, so you're just kind of borrowing it and streaming it. You couldn't burn a CD with it, or you couldn't download that for keeps. Apple Music.
You mean because you didn't pay for it?
You didn't really pay for it. It's part of a subscription, so you're kind of borrowing it.
Right.
But if you try to save it to like a thumb drive or burn a CD, it won't let you. So the music that's kind of on loan with Apple Music, that doesn't belong to you anyway. But all the music, if you've just bought songs over the years for 99 cents or albums for $10 or whatever, Apple, with this clause, they could effectively pull that back even though you paid for it.
Well, that's what I asked. How would you save it?
Well, if you have a copy on your hard drive, they can't really take it. But anything that was kept in the cloud, they could pull off, it sounds like. Because they can't come into they're not going to come into your house and physically.
Right.
But they may, I guess. But
But you can save it in Dropbox.
you can save it in Dropbox. As long as you save it somewhere besides Apple's cloud service, then it's safe. But any movies or anything that you just kept on the cloud, and typically you'll keep this stuff on your hard drive, but it won't be stored on your iPad. Your iPad and your iPhone would use the cloud version kind of just to stream. So I think, like I said, I don't think this comes into play often, but technically it's a possibility. And it's the most stringent terms of any of these that I researched. So now digital assets, your media. So just make sure someone has access to your Apple ID and password for photos and music. Otherwise, this media could disappear if not stored on a local hard drive or a cloud service like Dropbox or Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, as long as you have a copy somewhere else besides Apple's cloud, then that's safe. But Apple can pull anything back that's on their own cloud.
But what about Dropbox?
Well, Apple doesn't have a deal with
No, I know
Dropbox
that.
to pull.
But what about Dropbox's approach at that?
You know, I did not look up Dropbox, so I'll put that, I'll add that before I publish this tonight, because, yeah, Dropbox is a big service, so I'll look that up. I did not put in Dropbox. So I'll add notes to cover Dropbox's policy. So services, again, we talk about things like Netflix, Hulu, Adobe Creative Cloud, Dropbox, LinkedIn, Amazon Prime, Google. These are all subscriptions, a lot of these. So when you think about, you know, if you have an eBay account, or maybe you have domain names, you know, if you've registered a few domains, or you have a blog, or a small website, you know, if you disappear one day, well, somebody's got to renew that domain. They've got to, you know, pay the maintenance on the website. It might not be updated anymore, but if you want the website to carry on, make sure you make arrangements for that in whatever final documents you're drawing up, because otherwise your website, your blog, your whatever it is will just disappear. You know, if the bills aren't paid. Because you have to renew those domains, you have to renew the hosting. So there's a lot of things, if you're involved with something like that, that have to be planned for as well. Otherwise, it'll just kind of stop on a certain day and time. Nothing.
Would you want to save all these pieces of information for the person you're giving it to, like on a memory stick or SD card, and hand that, leave that?
Whatever's convenient, you know, you can make sure, you can put it on an SD card and just make sure you update it regularly. But just make sure that person that you want to access that knows where it is. Because if it's on a flash card in your drawer and you never thought to tell anyone about it, well, it just looks like another flash drive. You know, so it's very easy to, if you let someone know about this, even one person that knows where to look to get this information, then it'll save a lot of headaches before, because a lot of this stuff looks the same when you're looking at flash drives or CDs. You know, if it's not labeled or identified and you haven't told someone about it, it really doesn't exist in this case.
So in other words, when my daughter comes down at Christmas, I should tell her you're going to sit by my side the entire week. You're not going to the pool. We're not going out to dinner. But I'm going to review everything with you so you know where it all is.
Yeah, have her get a notepad and just ask, oh, was that a capital P? You know, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's not like the old days where the family all lived together in one house.
Not at all.
To get these relatives to really, you know, sit down with you and go through all this, that can be a very difficult issue.
That's why it's easy to just hand them a 1Password emergency kit and say, hey, if anything happens to me, log in here. Because you can keep your passwords, your credit cards, your secret security questions. 1Password is a great place for storing a lot of different information, your driver's license number, you know, all kinds of stuff for $3 or $4 a month. So,
Jeff, when iCloud Photo Library started,
Give it to me.
if you put a photograph on an iOS device and you wanted to make sure you had a copy on your computer, it used to be that if I would go in and I would try to edit a photo that came in from my iOS device, I would have to download it to the Photos app on my computer. Now, I thought I heard somebody say that it automatically downloads now. Do you know if that's the case?
by default, on the Mac, on a computer, if you're using the Photos app, it keeps the full resolution image on the computer. But if you have a 128 gigabyte MacBook Air, then there's an option to keep an optimized version on the computer,
Now-
which is
now
going to be
that's-
lower resolution.
Yeah, that's not my question. The question is, previously, with iPhoto Library, when a photo came into your computer from somewhere else,
Okay.
in order for it to remain on your computer as stored there, in addition to being in the cloud, you would have to do, it happened to me several times. I would try to edit a photo on my computer, and it would say, do you want to download it to the computer? Okay? Now, my question is, has that changed so that it will if a photo comes from outside, do you have to download it, or will it automatically download into your computer?
Let's see, if you have, let me check the settings here. So if we go to iCloud.
I think it's a setting.
Yeah, there's a setting that says download originals to this Mac that can be on, or you can optimize Mac storage. So the default is download originals to the Mac.
Right.
But
That's
see,
the way I've had it.
what it's telling me is the full resolution photos will not fit on this computer because the hard drive is almost full.
Right.
Even though I've got 500 gigabytes, I don't have enough room for my 300 gigabytes
Well,
of
let's
photos.
assume you have enough room.
Yeah, so if I hit optimize storage, it's going to keep thumbnails on my computer. But when you try to email, that's why when you try to email a picture sometimes, it'll say, do you want to send this small, medium, or actual size? Because the photo isn't actually on your computer actual size, or your phone actual size, but the cloud has an actual size photo. So it will send the full-size resolution photo that might be 10 megabytes from the cloud, because that isn't actually on your device. So when you see that question, it's telling you the photo's on the cloud.
Well, why would it ask me, do I want
To
to
download?
download it?
So you must have this choice that says optimize Mac storage selected
Yeah.
on a desktop
check
or
it,
laptop.
but I don't
Check
think
it, because
that's
that's
the
got to be it.
Can that be related to legal documents? You know, they're doing more and more electronically, email. You know, sometimes you get a legal document, you have to download it first before you can even see it, depending on your programs.
Well, and those are usually like encrypted files or something.
Oh, they're encrypted.
Yeah, so that's a whole different.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, because photos, over the years, cameras have gotten better, so photos have become larger and they take up more space. You know, they're higher resolution. So that's why the computers really haven't kept up with the space, but they've offered more cloud storage to kind of store the full size. And I think that might be what's happening is this on an iMac or a laptop?
Oh, no, I have plenty of room on the computer. There's plenty of room for the photos.
Right.
But the problem is, if I want to edit a photo that I took with my iPhone, and I go into, it pops up on my computer, and I go to edit it,
It'll
it'll
download.
say, do you want to download it to the computer? Thinking that it's not permanently stored. That's what on my.
So yeah, it sounds like that photo isn't permanently stored on the computer due to probably that setting, I would guess. Check that setting about the optimized storage, because in that case, it would only keep a thumbnail on your computer, but the original
Yeah, I
editable.
think I had it set properly, but I will look at it, just to be sure.
Yeah, let me know, because that seems like
Right.
it's got to be a setting, because if you have enough room, it should keep the full size of everything on your computer, even the synced photos that you just took with your phone 5 minutes ago. You know, they shouldn't.
Right, as long as it's permanently there, that's what I.
Right, yeah, that would be
Right.
the key, of whether it's permanently there or not.
Right.
My husband had a one password. What I didn't realize is that it is an account that needs to be renewed. So when he is coming to renew, and the time comes to renew, and how do we do that? He'll probably go to his email, which is no longer valid, or to a credit card number, which is no longer valid. So at that point, how do I either renew it, or is all the information in that account erased?
Well, the information is still going to be on the computer. So you can save a copy on the computer, but you should probably, if you can, do you know his 1Password?
Oh, yes, we have that, and we put all that information also in the Dropbox.
Okay, so what you can do is log into his account on the web,
Yes,
and just update the email address and or billing information
okay,
so that the subscription can continue, because his email is inactive
right.
and the credit card's probably canceled or, you know, closed. So just if you can get into the account online, and just update the email address and billing information to keep it syncing between your
But if
devices.
that was not renewed in the meantime, without my knowledge, will they have erased anything?
No,
Will
you
they
you
have
keep
done-
the data on your device, but it wouldn't be syncing anymore. If you change the password, it wouldn't go over to your iPhone or iPad or whatever else you're using.
Okay.
So the only reason, the only thing that would happen if you stopped paying would be that it would be a standalone version again,
Mhm.
and it would only be on the device and it would not sync.
Okay.
So you'd lose the syncing capability. if it's not renewed. Is there another question? Yes?
This is the first time I've heard you give a presentation that you haven't started out with, first we're going to simplify things. Well, why is it you don't eliminate some of these things that you're not using? Why do you get, I mean, we have people in this room that get one phone call a day. That's all. And they may do some texts. They're not communicating regularly on all of these things. And FaceTime is communicating with people that they don't even know are their friends. You know, it's screwy. Why didn't you reduce it?
Well, I looked at my 1Password the other day, and I have 1,600 items.
Right.
And probably, they're not all important, but I have a shared account with my wife, and I've transferred the important ones over to her, the bills, the banks, the kids' college. She doesn't need to know about my envelopes.com password. That I used it once to order some envelopes, and I'll probably never use it again, but I still have it in 1Password. So a lot of that is just maintenance, too, that I haven't done myself. But you can go in and tidy this up just like you would clean up your inbox. So I've been using 1Password for probably 10 years, and I have a lot of passwords that I haven't used in 8, 9 years probably. But I still haven't gone through, I just haven't taken the time to go through and clean it up. But I know that my wife has the passwords that she would need to have. And after doing this for 14 years, I've probably seen 7 or 8 instances to where someone got sick and passed away, and then the other person was the person that never used a computer. And then they're trying to get into this, and they don't know anything, and I didn't know. And you can be really locked out and feel helpless if you get in a situation like that, if no one prepared. So I would definitely recommend, after this, coming up with a plan at least to let someone know.
I have one more question. Do you know if 1Password is HIPAA compliant? For example, I have passwords to insurance companies, which have to be HIPAA compliant.
It should, because of the security involved, I would see no reason why it wouldn't be, because it's so secure. I mean, a court order can't get this information. If you forget it, you can't get it. It's more secure than anything. So I don't think any medical type thing would have an issue with the way it stores passwords or creates passwords, simply because it's the most secure. I mean, I'm sure there are other password management systems, and I know there are, but I'm comfortable that this is very secure, and you saw it through that emergency kit. Unless all those pieces are there, no one else can get into that account. And it'd be very hard to randomly come up with that 35-digit number or whatever it is. So, a question or? Okay. So preparing your data. One of the good things to do is search yourself in Google and see what appears. Because if there's information out there now that you don't want to be remembered for, you can probably get it down still.
You can probably what?
Get it down. If you search Facebook and there's a picture of you with your eyes closed that your daughter put up, and you can take steps to remove that now. Because once you're not here, that people will see that when they search for you on Google. So there's a lot of stuff you can find on Google if you just Google yourself that you can kind of edit while you're still here to do so.
But there's a lot of stuff on Google that you probably can't do anything about.
There's probably 50-50. You can't do anything about property records or things that are fact. But a lot of this social media you can do something about now. You can contact Facebook or Twitter and say, I'd like you to remove this, and they're usually pretty good about it from what I hear. So tell someone what you'd like to happen with your devices, digital content and social media content when you're no longer here. Download and back up media saved on third-party sites. All the big social media sites, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, if you go into your settings and you log into the account, there's a button you can click that says download my data. I've downloaded all the Facebook information. I've downloaded all the Instagram posts I've made. Apple recently revised their privacy plan where you can download all your iCloud data, which I did, and I think it was 85 gigs of data, and that was just address books, calendars, and photos. It wasn't music, but it was a list of every song I've bought on iTunes, It wasn't movies, but it was a list of every movie I bought. So if you want to see what data Apple has on you, it's out there, but it does take up a lot of space because it's years and years of data that you have access to now.
Today in the New York Times, I read the web edition, there was an article about security and removing it. And it featured Google. And it actually had a link in there that said you can click on this link and it will go to Google and it'll remove the data.
Was it the location article?
This was, I think I'm up to date on the.
Yeah, there was an article in today's New York Times about what they know about you from your location services. It was probably tied to that.
Okay, you did read it then, okay.
Yeah, but the thing is with Google too, if you have a Google account, a Gmail account, or you've signed into Google and created an account to make it easier to use, there's a site you can go in and also see all the information Google has on you, and you can fine-tune the information that Google tracks on you. So you can, if you go into the settings of a lot of these sites now, and Google's one that I did, and it took me like 3 hours to go through all the different settings of what they were allowed to do, and it's really a lot by default. Know your location. If you're using Google and you're signed in, they know where you are, what computer you're on, and you can turn off a lot of that stuff so they don't track it anymore. But you have to go in and do it manually. So again, if you have a website or blog that you'd like to remain live once you're gone, make plans, allow a budget for it to occur, and also understand the terms and conditions of the services you use online. So that, again, that doesn't mean that you need to, panic about all your Apple data is going to be yanked back, but technically it's a possibility that stuff you haven't downloaded could be terminated. Now this is something, the European Union just did a whole revision of their privacy laws. So basically they now have the right to be forgotten. So this was passed and requires online information service providers and search engines like Google to remove content when it is deemed to break privacy laws attributed to EU citizens now. So there's a medical bracelet there that says delete my browser history. Any other questions, or yes, sir?
That's probably a silly question, but what is the difference between like a password saver on your phone that is you could get into just with a PIN number and your one password software?
Well, depending on if someone, as long as someone else knows the PIN number, and that's what they would need in case something happened to you. Just if that's the system you use, just make sure someone knows where it is and how to access it. And in your case, it might just be a PIN number where they can get the passwords that they need to finalize some accounts and such. So the most important thing, no matter what system you use, make sure there's at least one person that you'd want to know where that document, where that program is listed and how to access it. Because just like someone mentioned, you can put it on a flash drive. Well, yeah, but you got to tell someone where it is. Because all flash drives look the same. And if someone doesn't know that's the important one, they're just going to throw them on the trash can. Because
this is so simple. I mean, it's a 4-digit number that my wife knows and my sons know. So,
and if they know that's on your phone, then that's probably enough.
Okay.
But just think about all the different things that we kind of reviewed, and there's all that information in there. All the applicable information should be within whatever system that you're going to leave behind. But again, it's more, it's something you have to plan for now that you didn't have to plan for 10 years ago even. But without the planning, it can turn into a real mess pretty quick. Yes?
Jeff, earlier, the gentleman in front of me had mentioned, or had brought up about, you went into a website and it would not fill automatically. Every single one of mine is doing that.
With 1Password?
Yes.
And there's a setting in 1Password that you can select autofill. Is that checked, do you know?
Yep.
Is it randomly or is it all the time?
Everything.
It's not syncing.
It's not syncing, that's what it
So what you
is.
can do
Now,
is
on my
sign out.
phone, it works fine.
Yeah, sign out of the account on your computer. Go to the account tab in the 1Password settings and just log out, and then sign back in
All right,
and let it reset.
okay.
It could be as simple as that. And that's probably something that'll
Well,
do
you
it.
had mentioned to just delete that and start that.
Well, that was an entry that was giving them problems.
Yeah,
But if it's happening with all of them,
every single one.
and also delete the 1Password extension in whatever browser you're using,
Okay,
and then reinstall that.
okay,
Just kind of reset everything that way.
okay.
Instead, if you're subscribing to it, then it's all safe online, so you can delete it from the device and then just re-add it.
Right, okay, all right.
Doesn't 1Password have a great text support also?
I've never used it, but they may. I'm not sure.
They do, but it's, oh my, it's difficult.
Oh, really?
Because when you send something to them, it comes back and it says, well, this has been passed on to our human people. And these gives you options and, oh Lord, it's a mess.
So it's not live support or chat?
Well, if you really get nasty and you start making phone calls, yeah, then you can.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've never had to call them, but I know some companies have really good tech support and some have terrible, but that... Any other questions, or? Yes?
Jeff, I had the experience this summer when my husband died, that a lot of things happened that I didn't know and didn't expect. He was a very private person, so he didn't tell us, me and my two sons, a lot of stuff. First thing they asked, they said, do you know where Dad's passwords are? So I pulled out this 3x5 box. Thank God he wrote them down.
Oh, wow.
Might not be able to read them all, but they were there. But anyhow, when the undertaker or the funeral director or whomever puts that person's social security number in, because it has to be reported to the state to get the death certificate, that somehow goes up here on this magic wave, and I don't know where that magic wave is, and it blocks their name on bank accounts, on credit cards, on anything like that at all, and because that's been entered by an official person. I had the experience, I went to the store one day and used a credit card that I had always used, because he and I were both on the card, but the bill came in his name, and it blocked me.
And that's how you found out?
That's how I found out. I pulled another card out that was in my name, and the bill came to me, and that went through fine. So I had to get all new credit cards that the bill came to him. On bank accounts, make sure that your accounts are or, not and, but or. If it's and, then you won't have to.
Oh, wow. So, see, that's a good point. Yeah, and you've been through it, so...
I just went through it. It was fun. He even had bank accounts that I didn't know about because I wasn't on them.
Wow.
One of those bank accounts became the executor's account to take care of all the bills from his death that came in. It was called the executor's account. And after the will was probated and was ended, and I got the official word this is over with, then we could transfer that to another checking account.
Wow.
Had another one that we just simply waited until everything was closed, and then we could transfer that to another checking account. But there's just a whole lot of stuff, and you have all this estate stuff to fill out, and it's fun. It's either on stocks, make sure that you have your stocks listed somewhere all together as to what you have in stocks. And on the day of the death of that person, go in, let somebody know where it is and how to get into it so that they can make a printout of the day of death stock market. Because that's what is in to determine the amount of your, what
Wow.
stocks are worth the day of your death.
So was there, if he had left more complete information, would it have been easier for you, or were you...
A whole lot.
Yeah, so see, that's a real life story of why it's important to get all this stuff together, because it could have saved you a lot of time and probably just stress.
Well, a lot of stress. My son called him an alpha Greek male. He was a very private person. I sort of knew that he had these accounts. I sort of knew that he had some checking accounts that I wasn't on. And now they're saying, well, I don't know what else we're going to find when we go to clean out the house that he has in. Because
Yeah, how would you, a lot of that stuff might be just out of the blue.
Because he was a very private person, and that's just the way it was. But make sure that somebody knows, or that it's listed, and that there are two people on all your accounts, and it's or. Because if it's and, then you have to come up with an original, not a copy, but an original death certificate. Now, that place may make a copy for their use, and you get the original back.
Wow.
But you have to produce an original. You also have to produce that you have been named the executor or the executor of that person's will.
And show that to people.
And that has to be shown also.
That has to be what?
Has to be shown, along with a death certificate. And you have to show them a photo ID of yourself, that you're who you are, if they don't know. If they know you.
So this is important, so that that doesn't happen.
Nobody has time to cry anymore.
Yeah.
It's just a rude awakening, and I understood him because I've lived with him 57 years, so, you know. But it still is a rude awakening, and it just sort of boggles your mind. And then when I was doing this stuff, my lawyer would say, "No, we got this, but we need this, this, and this." And my accountant would say, "No, we got this, but we need this, this, and this." And we're still working through it. So anyhow, just make sure that other people know the what, when, wherefores, and hows. Be nice to them.
Right, yeah, and that's exactly what we've been talking about. This is the kind of situation you don't want to happen.
My son says,
So
"Mom,
I'm sorry.
please." My son says, "Please, Mom, don't leave us in the mess that you live in." I said, "Promise you I won't." So they're going on everything about us. I'll solve that for them.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because that's exactly what we needed to hear about getting prepared.
You know, Jeff, I think most people are pretty convinced now to leave wills, but, and even if your children are, be kind to your children, and they can decide whether they want to keep those photos or they want to not keep those photos or whatever, and they can close the account so it's not taking money away from their inheritance. But it's even more complicated when there's a spouse left, because just like in your case, it complicates her life so much more because he didn't think to arrange all that, And so listen to your lawyer and be kind to your heirs.
Yeah.
Also, go in and make sure if you're not going to use PayPal, that it gets canceled.
Oh, PayPal.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's another username and password that could have,
Well, my husband had a PayPal account. I have no intention of using it. I never use it. I'm not going to buy anything. But anyhow, I told my son that we probably needed to cancel that or do something with it. And so my oldest son is sort of a, when he comes on our computers with TeamViewer. So he came on the computer I was using, and he went in and he says, "Do you have Dad's passwords?" And yes, I had it for PayPal. So I gave that to him, and he went into PayPal because they wanted me to send death certificate, my appointment, IDs, and everything. And but older son went in, and he just simply went clear in and just canceled it because he was able to do it because he had the passwords. The password, and they do the password.
He can go in as if he was the person
Yes,
who owned it.
that's what he did.
That's the whole point,
And he
right?
went to it for Morgantown through the air, through TeamViewer, and did that. So if you have somebody that's capable of doing that, they can take care of that.
okay, now I just looked up what Dropbox, someone asked about Dropbox. If to close a Dropbox account, you have to send the following information in the mail. the full name of the deceased person, the email address associated with that Dropbox account, your name, mailing address, email address, and your relationship to the deceased person, a photocopy of your government-issued ID, and a valid court order establishing that it was the deceased person's intent that you have access to the files in their account after the person passes away. And the Dropbox is compelled by law to provide the deceased person's files to you. So I'm putting that in the notes that you'll download later. So that's a little specific with Dropbox as well. So
But maybe if you act like you're that person because you have their password, you can go and just delete it on your own.
right, and that's the importance. If you leave the Dropbox sign in for someone, they can just take care of it. But if you don't do that, they're going to have to jump through a bunch of hoops again.
Yeah.
So being prepared is a lot easier than not for the people that are left behind. So, Don?
With PayPal, if you just canceled the credit card,
That closes
that
it.
closes the account because they won't let charges go through.
But you have to have access to the account to cancel the credit card.
You have to have access to
To the
credit
PayPal
card.
login.
Not PayPal. No, I mean, if you just cancel.
Oh, right, if you just cancel the card separately,
PayPal will say, well, it didn't go.
right, it's not
See,
valid.
I think what Don just said is one of the most critical things. I mean, a lot of these, the death certificate and all that, that's what you gotta do. If you don't cancel the credit card, or if you don't delete the account, then it becomes very complex.
But see, Don, I wasn't using PayPal, so they didn't know for what, he was just not using it. So it was still open when my son went in and closed it.
Yeah, but if you had just canceled the credit card, it
Hey,
can't be used.
the government canceled the credit card.
Right, so it couldn't be used. If PayPal does not have a current bank account, which I never give them my bank account, I use it. That's all the more reason to use a temporary credit card. If you have Citibank or, well, Bank of America, it looks like they're doing away with them. So all of that stuff, I sign up for a temporary credit card and it automatically expires unless I renew it. So if I die, all this stuff gets canceled anyway.
Right.
But we had a, remember, for those of you who've been members a long time, Georgia Moses was our secretary, and somebody in her family died, and she said that Bank of America, it was like this person was their first customer who ever died. She really had a hard time.
Yeah, oh, you
She
get
had
that
a hard
feeling.
time with the bank, nothing to do with whether she was prepared or not, but it was a hassle.
So yeah, you can make this easy for the people you leave behind or hard, so make it easy if you can and start planning this, simply because someone's going to have to go through it and it'll be a lot easier if you have preparations made. So, okay, well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.